The way I think about films, especially when you go to the cinema, is they're campfires. Movies are campfires, and you've got someone that's gone off on an adventure and they've come back, sat around the campfire with the tribe, and you go and sit down and listen to their story. So when you go to the cinema, you've got all these different campfires sort of spread out, and you can decide, I want to hear about that story. So how do you write a movie script? My name is Glenn Triggs. I'm an independent filmmaker, and I've wrote over 50 or 60 feature film scripts before. I've sold some scripts, I've made some scripts, and I still have scripts sort of sitting on my computer doing nothing. I know there's a lot of people out there that aren't really sure where to get started, so I thought I'm going to lay down stuff that's worked for me in the past. This is not the perfect way to write a script, but this has worked quite well for me. So a movie script really is the blueprint of a film. It's the structure, it lays everything down of how it's meant to be, and it reads quite differently to a lot of other things you would read, like newspaper articles or books or novels. It has its own little sort of language essentially, but it's quite simple. And I know when I first started, I was using Microsoft Word to write movie scripts, and then they brought out all this amazing software. So there are many options of what software to use, and I highly recommend you do use professional writing software. It makes things a lot easier. So some of the free software you can use are things like Celtics and Trelby and Arc Studio, and also, of course, Final Draft, which is sort of the most known software, but I've recently converted over to Fade In. I had a lot less crashes with Fade In for some reason. And here's a weird thing about writing software. It crashes for some reason. Often. I don't know why. It's just text, right? You're just writing text, but for some reason it crashes. The first thing you need when you write a script is inspiration. And this is not something that you can really go out and find. I feel like it always comes to you. And if you're a writer like me, you'll find that you'll have stories that are just there. They're just there for you. And they'll come to you at weird times. You'll be driving your car, you'll be walking. I find walking tends to bring in a lot of ideas. Sometimes you get, amazing ideas, and other times you get a lot of little sort of half good ideas, and they'll sort of all mix together. But you do need a great idea, and a great idea to you. It doesn't have to be a great idea to anyone else, because you need to fall in love with what anchors you to this project. I'm of the belief that an idea comes from mixing two existing things together. So there will be, let's just say, a bucket and some water, and someone's gone, I'm going to put the water in the bucket. That's an idea. Someone comes along and goes, I'm going to take the bucket and pull it up on a rope. So they've joined, and these ideas just keep manifesting and pyramiding up and up and up. And original ideas come from mixing two sort of obscure ideas together. And I don't know if a truly original idea can exist outside of that concept, but that's how I've always thought of ideas working. So the life that I live, the experiences that I have that no one else has had, I can take some of that, and I might have seen this great documentary about this filmmaker that did this and be like, oh, actually, I can put my story into that idea and make that work. And there's my original idea, and all of a sudden I've got a great script. It's the cheapest way to make a film. It's the cheapest way you'll ever make a film is with writing. I found that drawing from my own life experiences makes things really quite a magical and easy flowing way to write a script, because you're drawing from real life experiences. I remember when I was in high school, when I was learning how to write at Victorian College of the Arts, they always said to us, write what you know. Big life events, things that sort of trouble you, maybe things you think about a lot, trauma. That can be a really great thing to write about, because it does get it out of your system, and you can dissect it, and you can slow it down, you can pause it, you can control it. You really do get your hands all over it. So when you first sit down to write a script, they do say it's good to plan. I never plan. I just start with an idea. I write until it's all done. Some people say that's a really bad way to do it. I found it's always worked great for me, because I don't know where it's going. And then I find I write in directions where I feel is right. It's all about feeling. Writing is all about feeling. It's all about emotions. So I never plan. I would just sit down and just start writing, just for the sake of it sometimes, for the fun of it. And things tend to present themselves. And I always try to come up with interesting concepts. I think a concept is really quite a powerful thing to get your head around before you begin, because the concept is going to give you leeway of what you can write and what you can't write, and how you can write things. So a script I'm working on right now at the moment, we don't see what the problem is at any given time, but it's how the actors react to it. And that to me is a really great concept, the way that that's working. So I've got these characters in this very dangerous situation, but you never see the problem. And it's all done with dialogue in this particular film, so it's all about how they talk about it. So that was my concept. So when I sat down to write it, I started to write about the characters, and I'm writing the characters, and I'm trying to cause conflict between them and all sorts of backstory. And all of a sudden I realized I don't want any of this. I don't need any of this. And so I just deleted all of that and just started with the incident, like the first sort of moment of what the story's about. And all of a sudden the film just became far more entertaining and far more capturing. To really have something that's high concept, I think tends to work, especially for indie films. You just need some really cool ideas, and then you can sort of write in those ideas, but never feel like you're limited. I've fallen into that trap now after producing a lot of films, that I do get quite limited in how I'm thinking about action scenes and what things are happening and scales and budgets, because I do sort of realize, how big things can be and how small things can be. And then I'm like, I can't make this scene too big. We can't afford that and all that sort of stuff. But they do say, try to write freely, like try to be without boundaries. Get your software, get your concept, get your ideas all together, and just start writing. I really do think it's as simple as that. Just start typing away, and maybe you have no idea where you're going to start. I find Fading and also Final Draft has made it really easy to format your scripts, and there'll be a format section in Fading at the top right where you can find different sections of how you want to format your script. I only use about 3 or 4 of these. I'm mostly using things like scene headings, action, and dialogue and character. That's pretty much it. EXT for exterior, INT for interior. And you can just put like, it might be interior house. I just push dash night, or dash raining, or dash morning. Like just sort of give a reference to what time or place it's all happening. You can usually start with your scene heading, and this has to be at the beginning of each scene. That's how you start each scene and the start of the film. Then your action, what's actually happening, your character, and the dialogue. And then it just gets separated by character, dialogue. If people are talking back and forth to each other, you might put a bit of description throughout this if you wish to. You can move on to the next scene. And it's just that, over and over and over again, really. Some people say don't write too much action. I have heard over the years a lot of producers don't like to read a lot of action. It bulks up the script. It makes it look like a lot of text in front of them. And they tend to be like, boring, and move on. I think people tend to like a lot of dialogue. It's very short, it's easy to read, it moves things along quickly. That's a weird thing to say, but that's the truth of it. You're meant to have a 3-act structure for your script. The setup, introducing everything, the confrontation, what's stopping the characters from getting what they want, and then the resolution and the ending. And I do agree, I think that's a very helpful thing to have in scripts, but I don't think you need to have them in that order. How many pages should you write for your script? Minimum 90 pages seems to be the thing. It usually works out to be about a page a minute, they say, and that's not always true. And I've written scripts that have 1 sentence on a page and then moves on to the next because it's meant to be taken over a long period of time in the script. That's usually a big no-no for script writers, but I like to be creative sometimes and just sort of spread things out a lot, differently, or format things a little bit differently, but it's not recommended, but I have done it. Usually 90 to 120 pages, which works out to be about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Some of your scripts might be a lot shorter than that. You might be writing a short script, and some of your scripts might be a lot longer than that. So a character arc it's a transformation or the growth of a character that undergoes throughout a story. Typically follows a journey where the character starts with certain flaws or beliefs or weaknesses, and they're going to face these challenges, and those challenges, I guess, force them to change, or to maybe change their belief or change their ideals. And that's the character arc. And it's an arc because it goes up and it comes back down. That usually comes down differently and the character's changed. So you've got things like the heroic arc, where it's a positive sort of resolution. You've got like the negative arc, you've got like a tragic resolution or a tragic sort of ending to the film. And then you've also got something like the flat arc, where I guess the character doesn't change, but the character changes the world around them. And these are all methods of writing about your character. You might sort of say, okay, I've got a character that doesn't believe in dinosaurs. Just doesn't believe it. He's just, doesn't believe it. And then he goes to an island where there's dinosaurs, and he comes back, he's like, I believe in dinosaurs. That's a character arc. The character has changed. They have a belief, the belief is challenged, and then they come back and they're a different person. Now, once again, these are structures and methods that you don't have to follow, but they are proven, they are tested, they tend to be the norm, they tend to work. They're very strong, powerful tools to have when you're writing a script, but I personally like to throw that out the window sometimes and just write something completely original. And I think originality has to challenge the methods and challenge the rules that we have. I do find sometimes I write myself into a hole. And this can be a heavy burden on your soul sometimes, because you feel like you're stuck. You're like, I've written these 25 pages and I feel like I've gone the complete wrong direction. And unfortunately, what I've had to do in the past is just delete those 25 pages and start again. I've written myself in the holes many times, which would probably be bypassed by planning. And you can definitely do your cue cards on the wall and plan out the structure and how you want to do things. I just personally don't like that way, but I can imagine it works very good for writers and to make things a lot more streamlined and quicker. But I enjoy the adventure of writing itself, not knowing where it's going. I feel like when you know where it's going, you tend to, I don't know, almost give away clues along the way too much. You're too self-aware of, because you know exactly where this is going, so I can get away with scenes that wouldn't really make sense otherwise. So that's where I like to not really know where I'm going. And it's good to pepper things in your script too, which means having a setup and a payoff. Something like Back to the Future, there's many setups and payoffs. Little sort of, the Twin Pines Mall becomes the Lone Pine Mall. That's just a matter of setting up where you want something to end up, and you've got just 2 points to say, like the setup of this thing and the payoff of that thing. I'm sure you've heard the term writer's block. What is writer's block? It's just laziness, and that's fine. Because I guess with a script, to get the reward, it can take a while sometimes. So you can be sitting there for a while writing before you even, option or sell or get your script made. So there's no real return sometimes for a while for your serotonin levels. So writing can be a bit difficult sometimes to sort of go like, oh, well, I gotta sit down and type again. But I do find once I write that first sentence, sometimes I'm just saying to myself, I'm just gonna write one page, just one page, that's it. And all of a sudden I've done 6 pages and I'm like, oh, that's great, okay. And then tomorrow I'll add another 6 pages. I found that having multiple computers around the house helps. So like a laptop in the dining room and my computer in my office. So if I'm in different environments, if I've got to watch the kids or something, I can just be typing away in the corner. I don't have to be like, I can't get out to the office, so I can't write something straight away. So I find a great way to write is to reward myself with something. So if I'm struggling to be like, oh, I don't really feel like, writing today, going for a walk helps before you start, definitely. So I'm just going to write for an hour today, that's it. Just write for an hour. If you can get through an hour, get things done. Some days you might write for 6 hours, some days you might write for 0 hours. But if you can sort of say to yourself, look, I'm just going to write for an hour today, and then after that hour, I'm going to have lunch, or I'm going to watch this show or play this video game or do whatever you enjoy in life, can train your brain to sort of feel like there is some sort of reward immediately after you do write a script, because a lot of the time you're just writing by yourself, alone, no one sees it, and it can take months, years to write scripts sometimes. So if you can sort of, trick your brain and sort of be like, I'm going to reward myself, your brain starts to get used to that idea and writing becomes a lot easier. Save as, like, non-stop. I'll have a folder open on the computer and I'll just be, every time I open up the new script, I'll just do a save as straight away. As I'm going through the script that day for a few hours, I'll do maybe 5 or 6 save ases. So I'm making different versions in case I lose something along the way. And I have lost a page here or a page there, sometimes half a page. So it's no big deal, but definitely save as a lot. And when you finish for the day, save as, open up your Google Drive and just send yourself, or email, and just send yourself a copy backed up as well. I like to do the regular version, like the fade-in software, the FDX file, whatever it's called. I'll export that, and then I'll also export a PDF copy and a text copy. So I've got a few different versions just in case anything gets lost along the way. I have had some really weird things happen in the past with scripts, very rarely, but you can get corrupted files sometimes and lose things, which is just a hassle. So I revise a lot. I'll read through a script many, many times to make sure I've made no mistakes. I find at the end of the process, I'll just scroll through the script a few times to make sure the formatting, I've left no big gaps in the script. A lot of producers don't like big gaps if they're not meant to be there. Always check your spelling. That's an easy one. And just revise, like, just go through things and go, is this scene too long? Does this sound right? Does it feel right? So once you finish your script, what do? You can save it on your computer, send it to your friends and family for people to read, and then you want to try to get it made. I think that's what most people are trying to do. They want to get their film made. There's a few ways to do this. You can submit it off to producers, get yourself an agent, go online and look for agencies that accept submissions, send it off. You've got things like the Blacklist and all sorts of film festivals now accept scripts. And can send you a great revision. And there's a lot of AI tools now that can read your script and give you scores of what it thinks is working and isn't working. And I've actually found some of these to be quite helpful. ChatGPT especially can give you a really great review on your script and make you think about things you didn't see along the way. A lot of people hate this about writing scripts, but I think it's a really, really super powerful tool. So if you've got ChatGPT or something like that, just upload your whole script. It'll do a quick read through of it, very quick read through. I don't know how it reads it so quick, and give you some really great feedback on what you can, do to help it. And half the time it's good. The other half of it's usually a bit off, but it definitely makes you think about it. It gets someone to give you instant feedback. You might send it off to producers or friends and stuff. You don't hear back from them sometimes, ever. So this is a really great tool to sort of bounce your script back and forth and get some feedback on it instantly, which is amazing. And then you can also network, collaborate with other filmmakers, or make the film yourself, which is what I've done over the years for most of my projects, not all of them. But I found that's a very rewarding thing for me, because I put my heart and soul into these scripts, and to go out and make them myself, I find just a no-brainer. And of course, there's many books you can read about script writing. There's things like Poetics by Aristotle, or Story by Robert McKee, which is one of my personal favorites. And there's heaps of these books around. A lot of people sort of bestowing their knowledge of script writing. I do find a lot of them say to you, there are rules. There are rules of how you should write. There are structures you must follow for your script. And I completely disagree with that. I feel like there's so many new and unique ways that films can be made that we haven't even touched upon yet. And story structures and character arcs and all that sort of stuff. I really don't think that we should be limited by rules of how you're meant to write a script. I think all those rules have been used and worked great in the past and can continue to work, but I do really feel as if we need to break more of them often. So do you have a great script idea? And I feel like ideas are, Kevin Costner once said, a great idea will put a smile on your face. And I love that, because it's so true. I'll be in the shower one day, and I'll be walking somewhere, and I'll just all of a sudden go, yes, 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 that's great. Like that idea, I've never seen that before. And it gives you like a spark, gives you like a buzzing sort of inspiration to be like, I need to make that film. So please, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and comment what projects you guys are working on. I'd love to hear what you're on at the moment. There's a lot of people, millions of people out there working on all sorts of things at all different stages. So I'd love to hear about what's going on with that. So thank you for watching. I hope you've got something out of this, and I'll see you in the next video.